Hola, everybody. Welcome to Conversation Café, a division of Avant Consulting and Training. I am its founder and president and your host, Dr. Gerardo Gauthier-Zayas. And today, we invite you into a conversation that blossoms at the intersection of creativity, culture, and justice. So today, we will discuss Petals to Paint, reimagining equity through creative roots. We sit down with a visionary guest whose creative journey has reshaped the way we think about artistry and equity. Intergenerational wisdom is the intentional passing down of knowledge, values, lived experiences, and culture insights from one generation to the next. It's not just storytelling, it's leadership in motion, history in dialogue, and resilience encoded into the ways we lead, nurture, and build. We're focusing Today, we are focusing on Build a POC community narratives, which stands for Black, Indigenous, Latin, Disabled, Asian, and other professional of colors from underrepresented populations. Conversation Cafe was devoted Conversation Cafe was developed to center the specific and layered histories of systemic marginalization while also honoring the leadership and resistance embedded in our community. This term recognizes that while we share some experiences under the umbrella of racism and exclusion, Black and Indigenous Latinx communities in particular face uniquely entrenched injustices and deserve focused attention with broader equity work. So today's guest is Marcos Pena.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so today's guest is Marcos Pena. I'll tell you a little bit about background about Marcos. So he began as a floral designer. All right, a lot of clapping.
Hello,
You got a
hello.
big audience, which is great.
Thank you.
I'm gonna record that again. Give me 1 second. So that's the beauty behind editing, right? All right. So give me 1 second. Okay. So today's guest is Marcos Pena.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So a little bit about Marcos. Marcos began his journey as a floral designer in cities like Soho, San Francisco, and Beverly Hills, where elegance and storytelling were infused into every arrangement. But his creative journey didn't stop there. Now a painter, Marcos uses vibrant colors and powerful textures to narrate his Dominican heritage and the lived experiences of navigating urban spaces as a BIPOC artist. Together, we will discuss what it means to reimagine systemic equity through the lens of creativity and how roots, both literal and figuratively, shape not only art, but community change. Again, hola, Marcos, and welcome to
Hola.
Conversation Cafe.
Well, thank you. And thank you for, I'm honored.
No, no, the
So,
honor's ours. So before we begin, right, obviously I invited you because I think you have a very unique lens in really being able to discuss about representation and your experience through the world of art, right? Which to me is fascinating unto itself. So, but before we begin to kind of have our conversation, let's start with the following question, if that's okay. So, why don't you tell, if it's okay, I give the audience some of your background, but can you share something with the audience that you feel might be helpful to them to understand who you are as a Dominican artist, specifically in Las Americas?
well, of course, I am Dominican. The blood that runs through me is Dominican. And of course, what I do comes through in my work, in my artwork, and my floral work. I mean, it just comes through because that's what I draw from. And the latest thing that happened that is very interesting that I love and I fought for was I was at an art show. I had one piece on an art show that was only for Latinos.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yes, and
Yeah, yeah.
and 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 I love that. Um, and of course, I fought for that, and I wanted to be present there because, of course, I mean, like I'm the perfect perfect person to do that and to be there and to be present. So, yeah, that was great to see all these artists come, all these Latin artists come together.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that because I think that sometimes those of us that have the, I wouldn't say struggle, but let's just say those of us who have the uniqueness of being able to balance, right, our culture with our own culture, our ethnicity, our culture, and then kind of balancing it with dominant culture or the rest of our culture, right, in this country, in the United States of America. And I think it's important, like representation matters. And I know today, it's a very interesting times where somehow representation has become this thing that for some, not, I want to be really clear, for some, that representation has become this thing of a deficit, right? And I'm in the process of trying to really kind of understand, like as a leader, we've always learned that how we become better leaders is through our differences. What are the lessons learned? How can we teach each other, right? At least this is the school of leadership that I sit in. And I think that it's really important that when we're in our own communities, that to really celebrate that, right? Because I think that sometimes there's nothing wrong with being in art shows or any kind of shows to display our talents and what we want to do and call in community. But it's something unique when there is an event that's specific to the communities in which, we identify with, as far as our ethnicity, our gender, our sexual orientation, like whatever you fill in the blank there, it's a very special place that says, you know what, my peers and I are getting together and honoring each other, right? So we want to build each other up. And that's what storytelling is about. And I think the art world is in a very unique position to kind of tell the narrative of artists through their own lived experiences. And that doesn't mean that, within dominant culture, and what I mean by that is, the culture that dictates how we supposed to be as opposed to how we should be, right? And I think that's how I kind of break it down. So, what I'd like to start off with is just to say that I commend you and the other Latin artists for creating space to celebrate each other and to have allies in the room as well to also uphold. So, I think that's really important. Obviously, we can, celebrate by us and for us, but how much more better or how much better it is when we're actually celebrating all of us, right? That acknowledgement. So, what I like to do is, again, congratulate you on that. And then I want to just jump right into a couple questions, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
All right. So, the first question I have for you, Marcos, is like, what parallels do you see between floral design, art, artistry, and equity work? Can you share with the audience, like, when you hear these worlds collide in that realm under the dome of equity, what's
You
it mean? So
know,
what parallels? Yeah, what parallels do you see?
I don't know. I have found myself in the position to
Mhm,
to fight or defend minorities. You know what I mean, in the
mhm,
workplace, and to me that's equity. You know what I mean,
mhm,
and because that's when I was like it doesn't really matter in what situation it's in, but mainly when I was a florist, I would
mhm,
find people that 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 their bosses were really strict and they didn't let them have like lunch or something. And I'm like, no, you have the right to have lunch,
right,
and they
right,
cannot take that away from you. Okay,
right.
and I always find myself in this position that is like I want to speak up.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to speak up. And yes, you hire me for my art or my ability, but it's still I am a human, and as far as the conditions, we need to be equal.
mhm,
And I always fought for that. I always fight for that. And it doesn't really matter what kind of um, um, ethnicity they are.
mhm,
I'm willing to fight for that.
right, right.
So yes,
Yeah, I think that's an important point in relation to the power of the voice, right? The power of the voice. Sometimes there are spaces where one feels empowered to share the voice, and then there are some spaces that might not welcome uh, the voices of differences, right? And I think for me, if any industry and if any sector to me understands the value added to representation, it's the world of art, right?
yes,
And I
Yes.
think it's really interesting because even among each industry, whether it's art or anything outside of art, the artistry of it all, I think that sometimes what ends up happening is we, those of us from marginalized populations, we feel like we have to adapt sometimes in order to appease or to get the client or to actually, try to introduce artistry through our lens, through our narrative in a way that maybe people aren't used to it, right? Or maybe they don't understand and maybe they've never had to really understand the lived experiences of what it means to be different, right?
I have always put myself in this position.
Mhm,
People that come to me, they want my art. They want my artistry.
mhm,
So not that I want to be force anything on anyone, but they come for that. They come for my imagination.
right.
Okay. And when I used to like make arrangements for my customers, I used to just ask them, give me a word, just give me one word, and I will create something from that word.
Mhm,
And every time it was amazing. They
mhm,
loved it.
mhm,
And to me, I think that's the satisfying part. That's what I get out of it.
mhm, mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
I do. I can see that. And I think that for me, what's really important is when we start thinking about, the art of it all, right? I think that what we should be really thinking about, at least through my lens and through my opinion, as far as someone who really likes to engage in these conversations, I think sometimes it's important for us to imagine or to even reimagine like equity in the sense of how does it show up in the creative spaces, right? So the question for me that is coming to mind, and maybe you can help me understand it or unpack it with me,
mhm.
is what does it mean to like really reimagine equity through creativity and culture memory? Can you help me help the audience understand like how did that culture influence your path?
To me, I don't see myself that much as like outside. I
Okay.
just follow my own path,
Okay.
and I want everybody to follow me.
Right.
So maybe that's a difference between me and other people.
Mhm.
So I show who I am, and I show my work that I know is to me is amazing, and I give a part of me to
Right.
my work. Um, so after that, I just want people just to come in and enjoy,
Mhm.
just to like enjoy my creations. Um, so as far as like the equity, that's to me, that's what balances everything. That's
Mhm.
what, you know what I mean? Like to me, I bring them to me.
Correct.
I I don't want to adapt in a way. I want to think about adapting. I just want them to come to me and see my creations and see my talent and follow me.
Right.
So that's the way I see it.
So can you unpack a little bit more, right? So I want to dive a little deeper, meaning
Mhm.
for me, when you're saying, do you want people to follow me, right? And I understand what you're saying. But for the audience member, I'm going to ask a follow up question, but
Yeah.
very specific to this, right? Is how might have the culture memory or your culture, your ethnicity influence how you present equity through your art? Like, so how does the culture influence the equity that you're showing in your art, in your artistry, I should say? Just
I
how does that process for you? I'm just
I
curious.
think the way it happens
Mhm.
is that I create what I feel, okay?
Mhm. Mhm.
And maybe it's not literal. Like I see a lot of art, like now, like I see a lot of artists, and like my father's an artist, and he paints a lot of like like landscapes, like Dominican landscapes and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I don't. I create. My creations are my pieces are very colorful.
Right.
Okay, and I think because of that, I can see and feel the infusion of my my background,
Mhm.
my ethnicity, and and I just want people to feel that. I just want people to see that and feel that and be taken by that and follow me
Mhm.
and and then become acquainted with me and be curious about me and all that and that's what makes me I think special in
Right.
the world of like floral world like floral design and artwork.
Mhm.
um I'm not your traditional, in any way, but it's still the flavors and the colors and the vibration and everything is infused in my
Right.
work.
Right.
So
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, because I think part of it is as our cultures, we tend to gravitate to the things that we were raised with, whether that be the food we eat, the music we listen to, the colors we love, right, to your point, right, and how we kind of really infuse how we were raised, and then kind of taking it to a different level in a sense that allows everything outside of that to also influence like how we end up with this piece of art or this piece of work that we're working on, like, and you can use that interchangeably whether you're in art world or the deliverable of what people do, right, that
yeah,
product, right, in this case your product is your art and your art is your product, right? But and also the culture has influenced how you see colors and how you bring them to life. At least that the ones that I have seen that you share with me, and I think that part of it is, clearly your Dominican roots, whether you realize this or not, they come through in the work that I have seen. Meaning, like, okay, I see some colors here that look familiar. I see some colors here that feel familiar, meaning, someone with, Latin descent in their genes, we love color. And I don't know many people, many of us who
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
right?
I like my art. Yeah, like my artwork is extremely colorful. Like I force myself to do like not color, like black and white, and I have done like black and white pieces, just because like everything I do is it. I turn to go to color. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and you were talking about equity. I was thinking about like equity to me. Is always fighting for me,
Mm-hmm.
for the next generation,
Right.
and and meeting established,
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic and Latin people, uh, to further the conversation and to help each other and to find or to establish a foundation for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
um, because who do we have? We have us.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what that makes us stronger. I mean, that's the way that we're going to get stronger. We will
Yeah.
get stronger that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and to your point, right? So your roots, right, where you come from, I'm sure, obviously, it influences and shapes the way you express your artistry, the way you express what justice and belonging might mean to you, right? But can you share with the audience, if you don't mind, like how does the justice and belonging show up in your work? Like when you're creating a project, walk us through how you feel in order to get the belonging to come through in your work and your visual representation. Can you share a little bit about that?
You know, I tend to usually feel things, just feel and go with that, feel the emotion, and as soon as they comes into my head,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's what I want to create. That's that I like, that. And sometimes sometimes it are things that I haven't done
Mm-hmm.
or techniques that I'm not familiar with, and but I still want to try. I still want to conquer it. You know what I mean? And usually is flourish from the basically from my background. The seed is there, so
Correct. Yes, of course it is.
yeah, then it comes through. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It flourish. Right now, for the first time, I'm sculpting something.
Oh, nice. All right. It's like
Yes,
venturing
yeah,
off into new
yeah,
new ventures, so to speak.
yeah, into new medium. So
Okay.
I'm sculpturing something, and again, to talking about coloring and so like, it's going to be quite bright,
Yes,
bright
of course.
colors,
Of course. Why not?
and it because I'm a florist, I know flowers. It is a flower that I'm
Right.
sculpting. So because like I know flowers very well, so like that's what I'm sculpting. So um, so that's one of my latest projects, and again, it's infused with my flavors
Right.
and the vibrations and the colors and the sensations that goes through my body. So
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes 100% sense, right? I mean, that's to your point, artists feel, right? And that influences the product. Whether
well, yeah,
you're, whether you're doing, painting, whether you're performing, whether you're singing, like any kind of artistry, right? Those feelings feed the product, right? Or that deliverable. So I think that makes sense to me. The question that I do have is when you are kind of, work in that headspace, right? Or in that feeling space, because I think it's more feeling space than only headspace, right?
yes.
I think, can you do you think that like beauty and design in art can be tools for resistance? And if so, how? Right? Because I know there's certain art pieces that I'm sure if you name one or two, the audience out there is going to be like, oh, I know that picture. I know that representation. It left an imprint in me, and I will always remember the name of that picture, that shot, that film, that performance. So can you explain a little bit, or what do you think? How can beauty and design be tools of resistance in
You
this
know,
venue?
I more or less I, I heard something from somebody,
Mhm.
actually the um, owner of the gallery that I have the piece, the
Mhm.
latest piece, and that is for all Latino people. And he's also Latino.
Nice.
Um, he told me one time that art is one of the voices. It was more or less a silent voice to protest something.
Mm. Okay.
You
Yeah.
can use it. You can use it, and you maybe people might not get it, but to you that message is there.
Right. Right. That makes
So
sense. That makes sense.
and I like that. I like that when I heard that from him, and it's true because I hear it from like singers and or like artists like that and
Mhm.
poetry that
Yes.
yeah that we sometimes you know have something really strong to say. So
Correct.
yeah,
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Marcos. So I think one of the things that I want to learn from you a little bit more are the way I learn are from my lessons in the past, right? We all learn from, at least I hope. I hope that everyone out there takes a moment to reflect on something that happened and then learn from that, right? I hope. That's all I can do. So, with that being said, can you share, if you don't mind, with the audience, like what lessons from your past work, especially with I'm sorry, with what lessons from your past work with high end clients or cities can inform the community equity work today, right? Because I think that sometimes assumptions are made that you have a high end client and all high end clients think this way, or all mid level clients think that way. And I know art is art, there's no monolith on the receiving end. But can you help the audience understand what lessons from your past work with high end clients or cities can
you
inform
see,
community equity work today?
You
in
see, I
today's
said
environment?
that. I said this, and I used this before,
Hmm.
just not too long ago. Art has no status, no gender, nothing. Like art is art and is universal, and people see it and they're drawn to it, and and they feel it, and they express, whatever emotions or whatever it is that they're feeling, they is expressed one way or somehow,
Yes.
maybe verbally, but sometimes body language, whatever. Um, so um, when it comes to high end clients, usually in this case, I've learned,
Hmm.
and this is kind of crazy, but the way I kind of taught myself how to deal with high end clients
Hmm.
was from using the movie My Fair Lady.
Yeah, it's a
Really,
classic.
yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
but she didn't speak English too well,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she wanted to be a florist
Oh, yeah.
assistant and all this, and I put myself in that position,
Hmm.
like I needed to, uh, you know, raise up, but like go, get myself higher on that level to
Right.
be able to deal or go, you know, handle high end clients. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to meet them, I have to say, on their level because they're not going to
100%.
come down to your level.
Correct. Correct.
So,
Okay. All right. So then the follow up question to that, or maybe something you can share a little bit more of or dive into is like, so once you understand how to work with a client, regardless, high or middle, low end, right, and everything in between, right, the spectrum of working with clients. Um, how do you nurture your creative roots really while pushing into more equity centered spaces, right? Because I think sometimes, as a person who, like an entrepreneur, right? You are the brand. You are the brand. You work for yourself. You represent yourself. But how do you nurture those creative roots as your own boss, so to speak, while pushing, well, trying to push or really promote is the I think promote's a better word, but while try to promote like the importance of equity centered spaces, especially for underrepresented populations and artists out there.
again, I I do not, or I don't see myself as different, let's say. When I go and try to deal with anyone, I'm just myself,
Correct.
and 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 I bring me and my roots and
Yeah.
my flavor and everything,
Hmm.
and this is what they have to deal with. Somebody told me, like a couple of days ago, like, I want to see my swagger. They wanted to see my
Oh yeah,
swagger,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
my
yeah. I get
Dominican
it.
swagger, and
Yes.
that's what they see. That's what they want. When I had my last flower shop, people came because they wanted to deal with me.
Right.
They they saw my joy, like, how joyful I was and how happy I was, and in infusing that into my product. That's what they wanted.
Correct. Okay.
So
That makes sense. Okay. So let me ask you this then. So the next, imagine, I would say imagine, because imagination, it can be pretty impactful if we know how to cultivate it a little bit, right? So let's just jump into it, right? So if you could offer one piece of advice to your younger self as a person who, I would imagine, as a younger person, you were like, I dig this art thing, right? It called to you, right? So, what advice would you give your younger self as an aspiring artist, especially when the sector itself and its ability to represent more is sometimes challenged?
yes,
what are your thoughts on what advice you would give your younger self in that space of you're different, but what? Okay, so what advice would you give yourself?
I would have, I guess, pushed myself to find
Mm,
those spaces where I would be able to express myself freely. You know what I mean? I don't think I have pushed myself when I became an artist. I got been complacent a little bit. So I I and now I'm pushing myself to be
right,
more visible.
right.
So in the beginning, I would have pushed myself to be more present and find those spaces and be in that community.
Okay,
So yes,
okay. Yeah, that I mean, thank you for that because I think that sometimes when we're chasing the dream, right? Like that's how I'm going to put it. When we're chasing our dreams, I think some, we sometimes we celebrate, the wins along the way, but sometimes we don't really understand the importance of why we have to celebrate those moments along the way and not just brush over them and move on to the next. Right? In my opinion, and I think that for me, it's really important that when we're trying to just share, right? Because to me, this whole podcast really is about sharing perspectives and narratives, right? It's about sharing narratives of stories that maybe aren't told as often or not at all, right? In the mainstream. We're living in an age where, things are being erased, censors and identities are kind of really just being whitewashed is the best way that I can think of right now. And there's not against anything about being white, but the whole concept of it is I don't understand it, so therefore I don't want to hear it. Right. And for us, well,
yes,
wait a minute, we're asking you kindly, let's have this conversation to be heard, seen, and respected because people want that. So people from marginalized populations also want that, right? Or underrepresented populations. So one of the things that I like to ask every guest on this podcast is a call to action, right? So what would your call to action be to audience members? And for the audience members out there, when I say call to action, what that means to me as far as the, framing it in this conversation is if you had a magic wand and you can wave it and you would want the audience out there to either know something or to do something or to get involved with the whole purpose of getting to equality, right? Especially in this realm, in this industry, what would your call to action be to the audience member out there listening? What advice or something you want them to kind of understand or pick up long after they finish listening to this podcast?
well, to open up to the fact that Latin or Hispanic heritage has been infused in, like, let's say, in the American or United States, uh, uh, eh, you know, world way, way back. I remember watching I Dream of Genie.
Ah,
Okay,
wow.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I remember clearly there was, when they put the credits up at the end, there was somebody named Claudio Guzman.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we have always been present there. Okay, we have always been, like, way from the beginning of time. We have always been there. Okay, and like, I watched, like, Project Runway, and there have
Hmm.
been, like, Latin people. There was a Dominican man that was there.
Yes.
Uh, Now we have Soy Saldana, that
Oh,
is,
yeah.
that is like,
Yes.
burst into the scenes
Hmm.
and really being visible for us.
Yes.
But we have always been there. Okay,
Right. Right.
and I want people to recognize and know that although we have always been there, to realize that our work is amazing. Our work is as good as anybody else's. Okay, and we're there, and our ethic is amazing.
That's right.
So yeah,
Tell them.
our work ethics is like,
Yeah.
like we show up and we want to do the work, and we want to do the best work, and until that is not like achieved, we don't give up.
Right. Well, thank you for that. And I think that's a very realistic call to action. So I want to say thank you for that. And speaking of thank yous, we have arrived towards the end, just about. So what I like to do is, so we arrived to the end of our conversation today. And for what I'm hoping, right, we've arrived to the end of our conversation today. And if this episode provides a vehicle, right, for us to really help build community through the lens of equity, engagement, and purpose, please, audience members, subscribe to our podcasts across our platforms. We're on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and coming soon. The YouTube channel is going to be brand new for the podcast as well. Hit the subscribe button, like engagement. I always encourage and I always appreciate it. Definitely end up showing some love in relation to, maybe this is a topic you out there, the audience members, think it'd be worth having a discussion. Let us know. We'd be more than glad to, invite you to the conversation, or even invite you onto
More
the
if you're
podcast
Latino
itself.
or Hispanic.
Yes, of
Hello.
course. I mean, well, again, because we have something we always hear is that we're not a monolith. Like, no culture, no ethnicity, no race is a monolith. But I think that part of it is really kind of allowing that permission, right? I think that for me, the importance of today, with you being here, is sharing the wisdom, right? Sharing the wisdom, the narrative, and really just be yourself, and really allow yourself to shine through. So for that, I want to say thank you. I think that if audience members want to learn more about you, Marcos Pena, and if they want to learn about your work, they want to connect with you, how can they reach you? How can they connect with you? How can the world connect with
Well,
Marcos
I
Pena?
do. I do have. I'm creating my website now. It's been created, but a lot of my most of my work you can see on Facebook. You have to use my full name, Marcos Eddie Peña Guzman at Facebook.com.
Nice.
Um, I have some work on Instagram. Instagram is kind of hard for me to navigate through, so there's
Yes.
just a
Yes.
little bit of my work there, but it's me period or dot pg dash 56311 and Instagram.com, and you can see some of my work there.
Okay.
There is some there are some like 3 videos on YouTube on the
Okay.
Marcos Peña.
Nice.
But if you look under the light under the midnight, wait, the light under the light under the midnight. I cannot remember the title right now, but it's the light under the midnight moon or something like that.
Okay.
Then you can find the video, but under my name on YouTube, you can find it. Uh, so yeah, so those are the places, and then hopefully when I get my website up, then I
Yes.
can give you that information. And finally, I want to say to you and to everybody, it's like, don't think you are alone. Don't think you are alone.
That part.
We are here and we are present.
Yes, we
And
are.
you just have to seek us out, look for us, because we are
Yes.
here and
Yes, we
we
are.
are supportive. So
Yes. Yes. And yes. Amen to that. Yeah. So what I like to do is just close us out. And I'm going to edit this, so that's why I don't care how it sounds right now. But I'm going to pause and then go into it. All right. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay. 3, 2, 1. So we've arrived to the end of our conversation today. And if this episode provides a vehicle to help us build community through the lens of equity, engagement, and purpose, please subscribe to our podcast across our platforms. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and coming soon, our brand new YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button there. Like, please engage with us. If there are topics that you feel that, you know what, I might want to understand more about said topic when it comes to systemic equity, because the topics are wide and deep. If you think that there's something you want to learn more of, give us a drop, give us a call, give us a little note to say,
A
hey, can you
shout.
talk about a shout, a call, a note? Contact us and let us know that may be something that you want to hear about, and I'll be more than glad to find the guest to kind of expand on something that you want to hear about. So, lastly, if you are interested, audience members out there, learning more about your leadership journey, community building, and impact, again, let us know. I think we're here to share. Right, we're here to share narratives. We're here to make sure that people understand that as a race, as an ethnicity, that we are individuals, but collectively we are all part of the human race. And I think the contributions that we all do has to be recognized and has to be discussed, in spite of maybe times where people are saying that they're not important. I am here to say they are so important. We have always kept our narrative, and let's make sure that we continue moving forward. So, with that being said, gracias, merci, and thank you all for joining us at the Conversation Café. We the same, take care, stay safe, and we hope you will join us for our next conversation. Until then, adios.